Hi, and welcome to the Returning to Work After a Career Break webinar. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Katie Dunn, and I returned to work after 12 years out of the full-time workforce. I started back to business to help women like you return to the workforce with confidence. It can be done, and I'm going to tell you how. Thanks for joining me. Before we get started, I want to be sure that you know about the Back to Business Women's Conference. This is a day-long event, the largest return to work conference in the Southeast, where we focus on getting you ready to return to work. I want you to register early to lock in your seat. You may be wondering what's in it for you. Well, you'll gain momentum, motivation, and direction. You'll get started with a job search plan. You'll hear from experts on getting your resume in order and networking, and you'll join our community. We've also got some meetups coming up if you live in the Raleigh-Durham area. These are fun and informal, and each one will go in depth on a specific part of the challenge of returning to work. So let's get started. I want to give you my best job search advice. So this is me. I'm not proud of it, but this is how I felt during much of the time that I was job searching. I spent 12 years out of the full-time workforce raising our 4 children, and boy, did I love that time. I was lucky enough to have a part-time job during that time at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And when I was ready to return to the workforce full-time, I was surprised at how challenging that was. And when I started talking about those challenges to many of the women I knew, I discovered how many of them were facing the exact same challenges. So I started the Back to Business Women's Conference because it's exactly what I wanted when I was returning to work, only it didn't exist then. Today, in addition to running Back to Business, I'm a Senior Associate Director in Career and Leadership in the MBA program at UNC Kenan-Flagler Business School. I do career coaching with MBA students, and I love it. I love working. I love coaching people. I love helping people discover what they want to do. I also love connecting people who are looking for a job with someone who might want to hire them. I get to do this at UNC and with Back to Business. So I have to tell you that although I did not enjoy every day of the job search process, as you can see in this picture, I did learn from it. I found my passion, and now I work on that passion, literally day and night. I want to help you get there too. I have 2 goals for this webinar. First, I will walk you through the steps of returning to work. And second, I will tell you how to use those steps to provide some structure to your job search, because I want you to use your job search time efficiently. I also want you to know that the blog on our website has resources that will go into more detail on many of these topics. So please check there for more depth and additional resources. Our website is www.backtobusinessconference.com. Okay, we're going to use the Returning to the Workforce worksheet that you have as the basis for our conversation today. We'll talk through the items, but as soon as this webinar is done, I want you to spend some time filling in the worksheet. And while I'll be doing a lot of the talking today, I would like this to be a conversation. So if you have questions and you're listening live, please type them into the box on your screen and we'll answer them at the end of the webinar. Getting ready to job search can mean many things. There's being ready with a physical space, and I encourage you to carve out your own space in your home as Job Search Central. The kitchen table is fine. Just have a space where you can sit down to work each day to help you get in the zone and focus on what you're doing. Your local library or your favorite coffee shop are also good options. Really, it's any place where there are few distractions and you can really get to work. Also, get a notebook so you can keep track of your progress. I know that sounds old school, but I want you to have all of your job search notes in one place. If you're on the phone, you can't be typing notes into your computer while you're doing an informational interview because the person you're talking to will think you're not paying attention. But you can jot down notes in a notebook. And I also want to encourage you to get used to really taking notes on every conversation you have about job search. That way you can use the pieces of information that you learn in your next conversation. So getting ready can also mean enlisting the support of your family. Your children, depending on their ages, and maybe even your spouse, may not be thrilled with the idea of you going to work if they are accustomed to having you home when they're home. Understand their concerns, but also share with them the benefits of your return to work. Those may be financial, or they may be that you're excited to work on something that's meaningful to you. Understanding your own motivations for returning to work will help you when the job search gets tough. I'm going to give you homework from this webinar. Your first assignment is to write down 2 reasons why you're returning to work. I want you to be intentional about your job search, and knowing why you're in it in the first place will help you do that. Also, enlist support outside your family as well, because you need peers to share ideas and personal connections with, and to give you encouragement along the way. Job search can be challenging, particularly for women like us who are returning to the workforce. My job search took much longer than I anticipated. HR departments move slowly for some reason, and finding and winning over advocates and connections in different companies takes time. Be sure that you have reasonable expectations as you head into this big life transition. Now let's talk about answering that all-important question of what kind of job do I want to get? Many of us returning to work already know that we don't want to go back to the same kind of work that we left. I know I was in that camp. My last full-time job before kids was at a huge company. It was satisfying then, but when I thought about returning to work, I knew that kind of job would not be satisfying to me anymore. Maybe you feel the same way. Finding your path back to work is very much about matching up what you enjoy with what the job market needs. So get out your worksheet and take a look. Here are a few ways to explore what type of job you might want to return to. First, write down 10 things you do in your life or have done recently that you enjoy. Don't limit yourself to work-type activities. You could write down gardening, leading that project for the PTA, running, doing yoga, researching on the web, budgeting for your family, teaching Sunday school. Be specific. And once you've written down 10, I want you to push yourself to get to 15. Your next assignment is to write down your 10 biggest accomplishments. Again, don't limit yourself to professional or work-related accomplishments, but be sure to include at least a few professional accomplishments. Here are a few clues. What problems have you solved? What processes have you improved or initiated? How much money have you saved? How many people have you managed? What goals did you meet or exceed? Have you written any reports? Increased profits? Cut costs? Have you started something new? Next, I want you to write down the skills you possess. And yes, come up with a list of 10. For clues, look back at your list of what you enjoy and what you accomplished. We enjoy doing what we're good at, so you'll find some skills you possess hidden in those 2 previous lists. After your list of skills, I want you to think about who you are in terms of personality. Do you enjoy getting to know your coworkers, or do you prefer to work alone? Do you thrive on the back and forth of team debate? Do you need a lot of direction? Do you hate a lot of direction? Do you enjoy leading a team, coaching and managing others? You guessed it, write down 10 words that describe your personality. If you're not listening live, feel free to pause this webinar as you go through this section so you can really spend some time on coming up with thoughtful lists. Now that you've got all this information about you in one place, use it to think realistically about what it qualifies you to do in a professional setting. And I want you to really think about this, because putting in the time up front on this will help you feel directed in your job search. Of course, you are always free to revisit this document and change your objective. But having it in writing is a great first step on your job search. I've provided here an example of a professional objective that I really like. It's specific enough to really direct a job search because it talks about a specific field and a set of skills that this person possesses. And it also mentions their geographic preference as they're job searching. But it does also leave a few options for what exactly the position that they could fill with those skills might be. So think about modeling yours after this example of a professional objective that I've supplied here. Success in job search requires matching what you have to offer with what the market needs. So think about industry in your area, because it's of no use to be a highly qualified hospital administrator if there isn't a hospital nearby, for example. If you're lucky enough to live in the Raleigh-Durham area, Raleigh was just named one of the top 50 cities in the US for jobs from Glassdoor. Glassdoor, incidentally, is a great resource for job seekers, so you should become very familiar with that site. The most efficient way I've found to research your local job market is to use LinkedIn, and here's how I do it. I enter my city name and the field that I'm researching. So I put in Raleigh marketing into that search field and I clicked search. I got 2,454 results. Wow. Now I can look through those results to see what types of marketing jobs are being filled in Raleigh right now. And this is important because marketing jobs is a very broad search term, and I'm likely to get all sorts of results. So what do you think about looking through 2,454 jobs? Well, as I mentioned earlier, I want you to use your job search time wisely. So what you would do in this case is narrow your job search and run it again. Because really, reading 2,454 job postings is not productive for anybody. So keep in mind also that LinkedIn knows which jobs you're clicking on, and it will show you jobs that are similar. It's pretty smart. So click on the jobs that you like, and LinkedIn will learn from that. Now, I think it's interesting to note that last year when I did this same search, I got 1,816 results. This year, I got 2,454 results. So that tells me a couple things. First, this area is really growing, and so is LinkedIn. It has really become the place for job searchers. So now what if I typed in a field and it returned just 5 results? Well, then I'd know that I needed to broaden my search in order to really be effective. Your next step on LinkedIn is to create a search alert. On the right side of the screen, after you do a search, you'll see this. You can set your alert based on a number of different criteria, and LinkedIn will show you those jobs. So you can actually let it do some of the work for you. From your LinkedIn search, as well as your knowledge of your local job market and your reading of the local business press, you can put together a target company list. Aim to include 30 companies on your target list. For starters, think about where your friends and your neighbors work and where your friends' spouses work to get some ideas. Once you've compiled your list, get to work finding people at those companies that you can speak with and who will hopefully advocate for you internally. Companies love to hire people that their current employees recommend. And so internal advocates can be a huge, huge help to you in your job search. So back to LinkedIn, rather than address LinkedIn updates step by step, I'm going to talk about why LinkedIn is important for job seekers. You have to create an awesome profile for yourself because the fact is that 94% of recruiters use LinkedIn to vet candidates. 94%. I cannot overstate the importance of LinkedIn for job seekers. And it's not just recruiters who are using LinkedIn. Everyone who is considering you for a job everyone you meet in a professional setting who wants to know more about you, and everyone who receives your resume is looking you up on LinkedIn. So think about what you want them to see when they look you up. For me personally, I want people to see a professional, but also a person who is enthusiastic about her career. I love what I do, both at UNC working with MBA students and running Back to Business. When I look at people on LinkedIn, and I look people up all the time, I am drawn to people who seem to enjoy what they do. So instead of reprinting your resume on LinkedIn, I suggest writing a brief paragraph for each of your positions. Resumes and LinkedIn profiles are two different mediums. Show that you understand the difference by presenting your information differently in each place. Make your LinkedIn profile as complete as possible. If it feels bare, consider publishing a post on a topic related to your intended field. Ladies, you do not have to be a Harvard-educated expert in a subject to write about it. Also, recommend people you know and ask them to do the same for you. The recommendations on my LinkedIn profile are recommendations that I asked for when I was job searching. I sent an email to a few people and asked if they would mind recommending me, and I offered to do the same for them. People are happy to do this for you, but they generally wait to be asked. So go ahead and ask. Reskilling, or refreshing your business skills, is a key step in the process of returning to work after a career break. While you are out of the workforce, your field may have changed. It is up to you to determine what the skills required in your field are now and how you're going to get them. You may need to think about budgeting some extra money over the next few months to invest in updating your skills. But there are also plenty of ways to do it that might not cost you anything. You can check out MOOCs like Coursera, webinars like this one, and lynda.com. You can learn anything on lynda.com. Check out courses at your local community college. In Raleigh, we have Wake Tech, and they offer some courses that are free to job seekers. Your local community college might do the same. There are also online certifications you can pursue. When I was job searching, I earned my Google AdWords certification online. It was a self-paced course that I could do on my own time, and the certification tests were free. The resume, perhaps your most important job-seeking tool, and the most challenging for a woman who has stepped off the career track. I'm going to give you a few ideas for how you can put together a compelling resume, even though you may have been out of the paid workforce for a while. I love that expression, paid workforce, because I know that just because you haven't drawn a paycheck in a while, you've still been working hard. I suggest an objective at the top of your resume. This is a good way to make clear what you're looking for and why you're going to be great at it. Include significant volunteer experience at which you used important skills like leading, managing, fundraising, communicating, organizing, or budgeting. You may also want to consider a functional resume as a job seeker with a gap in your work experience, because a functional resume focuses on your skills rather than your chronological work history. Monster.com has a good example of a functional resume. If you're coming up short in the resume department, consider doing pro bono work or getting involved in a volunteer activity that will allow you to add new experience to your resume. Okay, it's time to get out there and start networking. For women returning to the workforce, your best bet for getting a job is through someone you know or a personal connection that you make. Statistically, the majority of jobs are landed this way, but for us, I'm convinced the percentage is even higher than it is for typical job seekers. And that's just because a normal resume is not going to tell the whole story for women like us. I want to encourage you to start talking to people about your job search. Start with people you know, then talk to the people they know. Do informational interviews. These are not just for college kids anymore. Find a local networking event and attend their meetings. Here in the Raleigh area, there are lots of industry-specific networking events that you can attend for free. You can join a professional association related to your intended field and check MeetUp for other groups that look interesting to you. Our Back to Business meetups are an easy and friendly place to start. Maybe your church has a job seekers group. The idea is to get out there, meet new people, and build relationships. And remember, relationships are a two-way street. I read a fascinating book called Give and Take by Adam Grant. His premise is that some people are givers. They go out of their way to connect people to each other and to help them. His research shows that the givers get farther in life than the takers. So be a giver. Approach networking as a way to build mutually beneficial relationships. After you meet people at a networking event, come home and invite them to connect on LinkedIn. This is how you build your network and keep in touch with people. And if you need help getting started or need further convincing of the value of networking, Keith Ferrazzi's book, Never Eat Alone, is a must read. It's one of my top 3 favorite books ever. You'll want to have your elevator pitch all shined up and ready to go when you attend those networking events or are just talking to people about what kind of work you want to do. The key to a good elevator pitch is knowing the 2 or 3 key ideas about yourself that you want to convey. You should also have a statement prepared about what you're looking for and why you're a good fit for that role. Refer back to your professional objective for this. And of course, practice your pitch until it sounds natural. The beauty of having your elevator pitch all ready is that you'll never miss an opportunity to talk to somebody about exactly who you are and what you want to do when you meet that right person. Interviewing. Let's face it, interviewing can be scary. I get that. I want you to look at an interview, though, as your opportunity to shine. Your chance to convince a hiring manager that you bring something unique and valuable to the table. You can get a list of common interview questions anywhere online, just Google it, and write out your answers so that you can really rehearse them. Tailor your answers to the job that you're interviewing for. And please, please, please put some structure around your answers. I like the PAR format, in which you describe a problem, the action you took, and the result you achieved. Do your research and demonstrate your knowledge of the company and the role during the interview. And always be prepared with good questions. Not the kind of questions you can get answers to on the company's website, but really insightful questions that clarify the role, the company's mission, and their expectations of you, both now and in the future. As you go through interviews, be sure you get business cards of everyone you interview with to make following up easier, and always ask about next steps in the hiring process so you know what to expect after the interview. Before you go for an interview, it's a good idea to have a sense of the acceptable range of compensation for the position you're interviewing for. I suggest salary.com for this information, but LinkedIn and Glassdoor.com are also good resources. One note on compensation, specific to women re-entering the workforce. Keep in mind that you may find yourself re-entering the workforce at a lower salary than what you were making when you left. I know this can be frustrating, but keep the big picture in mind. Once you're back at work and have current experience on your resume, you may be able to parlay that into a higher paying job down the road. I'll also tell you that many women find that their first job back isn't necessarily the right job, but that first job back can really pave the way for future job moves. So don't get hung up on finding your dream job. I want you to do work that you enjoy, but do keep in mind that you might be making a trade-off between, say, flexibility and a higher salary when you first return to work. And that's okay. Let's be realistic. Life is not perfect. So just be committed to excellence in whatever you're doing, and it will pay off. After an interview, you'll want to follow up within 24 hours with a thank you note. I prefer email for your thank you notes because your interviewer will receive it faster. If you send a note via the post office, the decision about whether or not to hire you may already be made before your letter arrives. How soon should you follow up after an interview if you haven't heard from the company? I would say 1 week. I know how frustrating it can be to not get a response from a company after you went to the trouble of interviewing there. But let's just accept that this is often a fact of life in job searching. It's rude, I know, and that's why you never stop looking for a job until you have a written offer in hand. A big part of our mission at Back to Business is changing the way the world views relaunchers. This means that we are speaking to recruiters about the incredible pool of talent that you all represent. We are spreading the word that a career break is a natural part of life for many workers, men and women alike, and that these career breaks can be great opportunities for people to grow, expand their skill sets, and gain focus about where they can add value to a company. Every woman who returns to work after a career break represents another opportunity for us to demonstrate that this is true. So when you do relaunch your career, please look out for the other women coming behind you. Well, I've presented a lot of material, and I'd love to take any questions you have. I ask that people type in their questions into the box if you're listening live, and I will answer as many as I can get to. And our first one here was submitted by Sarah. Sarah asks, should I take a job that pays lower than I would like just to get current experience on my resume after a career break, or should I hold out and be picky? Sarah, great question. We touched on this a little bit earlier, but let me also say that the answer to this really depends on your personal situation and your motivations for returning to work. If you are returning to work because your family needs the income ASAP, then take the job. But if you have the luxury of taking your time as you return to work, then you can be more selective. And here are a few things to consider if that is your situation. Is this a job where you will learn new skills? Will it help you beef up your resume? Will you be able to grow your professional network if you take that job? These are all things that can be a fair trade-off for a lower salary. Consider also if you've been looking for a job for a long time already, then it might be time to take one, versus if you're just starting out and feeling like you'll have lots of good options. I hope that gave you a few things to think about, Sarah, as you consider the decision that you have to make. So here's another question. Elizabeth asks how she can get recruiters to respond to her emails. Elizabeth, isn't that frustrating? You spend all this time preparing a cover letter and applying for jobs, and then you never hear anything. I was in your shoes too, and here's what I learned. You have to find opportunities to meet recruiters and hiring managers face to face. Job fairs are good for this. Asking mutual acquaintances for introductions is another good way. At the Back to Business Women's Conference, we invite recruiters and hiring managers to our networking session, so you can make those personal connections that will help you move your job search forward. You have to find ways to connect in person. If you're relying on email, however, please send concise, short emails. Nobody reads a long email. And follow up regularly. Find someone you know who works at that company and ask them to help you follow up. Persistence really pays off in the job search. Well, thanks for joining me today. I hope you'll take some time to continue to fill out your return to work worksheet and to follow the steps I spoke about today as you plan your return to work. And don't forget about the Back to Business Women's Conference on October 27th in Research Triangle Park, North Carolina. You can register on our website at backtobusinessconference.com. Good luck with your return to work. You can do it. I really believe in you. And I hope to see you at our conference on October 27th. Thanks and bye for now.